The Roots Remember. Chapter 1. The Black Forest Wakes. The wind howled through the bones of the Black Forest, rattling branches like skeletal fingers. Even the crows no longer came here, not since the moaning started. Celine stood at the edge of the tree line, her black cloak clinging to her body in the rising fog. Her violet eyes shimmered faintly beneath her hood. The runes etched along her collarbone pulsed beneath her skin like a second heartbeat. The forest had called to her for weeks now, its whispers crawling under her dreams like worms. She had resisted, until last night, when blood seeped from her walls and pooled at her feet, forming a single word in red: return. Behind her, the old world lay dying. Empires crumbled, cities bled dry by war and famine. Magic had faded from most lands, now feared more than revered, but something still pulsed in these woods, something older than gods, older than memory. She stepped inside. Each tree she passed was twisted and warped, gnarled like arthritic limbs, their bark blackened and wet. The soil squelched beneath her boots. Somewhere deeper in the gloom, something wept. Celine reached a clearing surrounded by standing stones, each etched with names long forgotten. At the center lay a stone dais, covered in moss and dark stains. It smelled of iron and sex. She approached cautiously, placing her palm on the cold slab. The moment her flesh touched stone, the runes along her chest ignited, golden light surging through her veins. She staggered back, panting, her breath fogging in the air. The ground trembled beneath her feet. "You are the vessel." The voice came not from around her, but from within. Sultry, ancient, malevolent. Celine fell to her knees, head spinning. A vision seared her mind. A throne of bones, a crown of thorns, a man of ash and fire seated in silence. She could feel his eyes inside her, piercing through flesh and memory. Then the earth split. From the broken soil burst a hand, skeletal and blackened, wrapped in rotted ceremonial cloth. It clawed at the dais before sinking back beneath with a groan like shifting stone. Celine rose, trembling, sweat trailing down the curve of her spine. The forest had awakened. Miles away, Kale slaughtered the last of the bandits. Blood steamed on the snow-covered ground. His great sword dripped red as he knelt beside the fallen. Each breath came ragged. He wasn't tired. He simply loathed how easy killing had become. The last man gurgled, clutching his torn stomach. Kale bent beside him. "Where were you headed?" The man coughed blood. "To the forest." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Who sent you?" The dying man tried to laugh. "The whispers. Night. They promised her flesh and power if we fed it." Kale drove his blade through the man's throat and rose. From beneath his breastplate, a sigil burned red-hot, a coiled beast wrapped around a bleeding eye. The demon was stirring. In the eastern marshlands, Nyra stood naked beneath the moon, her fur-lined cloak discarded at her feet. Her body shimmered, half human, half beast. She growled low in her throat as her transformation slowed, muscles rippling under silver skin, a woman and not, her eyes golden, her mouth filled with too many teeth. The air shifted, the scent of rot and something sweeter. Arousal, perhaps, moved with the wind. She turned her head. "The gods are restless," she muttered. She hadn't heard the forest whisper in years, but now it moaned. That night, Celine set camp beneath a leaning stone carved with mouths. The fire hissed unnaturally, fed by damp wood that somehow burned blue. She ate little, drank less, and sat with her knees drawn to her chest. The runes glowed steadily along her skin. Her body felt hot, flushed, as though something stirred beneath the surface. Her dreams teased her with images, hands on her throat, lips at her ear, blood pooling on alabaster skin. She didn't wake when the first watchers appeared. Shadowed figures in tattered robes standing beyond the firelight, their eyes like glass, their mouths moving in silent chant. She did not see the figure at the edge of the woods, its crown of thorns bleeding into its face. But she felt it. Something was waiting for her in the deep. The next morning, Kale found the first altar. Bones of a woman, folded carefully, her heart missing. Her face had been kissed with blood in the shape of a sigil. In Janus. He recognized the mark. Gai-ahi! The demon was here. Gahi-hahi! He felt the curse in his chest tighten, the invisible chains around his soul pulling harder with every breath. He hadn't aged in 10 years. Couldn't die. Not until he killed it. And now it called to him through the trees. He followed. Naira tracked the scent of burning magic through the canopy. Her fingers grew claws as she leapt from branch to branch, limbs graceful and feline. She heard moaning, real, human, alive. She slowed. Beneath her, a man tied to a tree, mouth sewn shut, flesh ritualistically flayed into symbols of devotion. Around him danced 3 women, their mouths red, their eyes empty. Spirits, or witches, perhaps both. They began to sway, hips rolling, breasts bared to the moonlight. Naira watched, unblinking, when one of the witches turned and sniffed the air, her lips curled. The beast woman comes. Naira dropped like a stone, claws out, eyes glowing. Blood followed. The witches screamed. Elsewhere, Celine found an old stone archway covered in ivy and etched with erotic carvings. A gate once guarded by priestesses of flesh and dream. The carvings moved as she watched, writhing bodies in acts of pleasure and pain. The stone shimmered, and for a moment, Celine saw herself among them, moaning in divine ecstasy as something with no face entered her. She blinked and stepped back. The arch trembled and whispered, "You are mine." Kale reached the base of a hill, where smoke curled skyward from a pyre of old bones. He knelt, placing his hand on the ground. The curse in his chest pulsed again. His vision blurred. He saw Celine, screaming, arms outstretched, blood gushing between her thighs as a great beast rose behind her, horns wrapped in tongues. He gasped and pulled away. He had seen her before, in a dream or prophecy. She was the key, and she was in danger. That night, all 3, Celine, Kale, Naira, found themselves drawn toward the same ruin. An ancient cathedral buried in vine and shadow, shaped like a woman lying on her back. The door was her open mouth. Inside, a pulsing heart carved from obsidian bead against stone ribs. They did not yet meet, but the air shifted. Their paths had begun to converge, and in the pit below, something with a crown of thorns opened its many eyes. Chapter 2. The Crimson Pact. The wind that whispered through the black pines smelled of iron, blood, and smoke. None of the 5 companions dared mention the scent aloud, but all of them noticed it. The path they'd followed through the dread-wild woods had long since vanished, swallowed by thorn and root. Even the birds had gone silent. Kaelin, always quick to speak, was first to break. "We shouldn't be here." Elira's silver eyes flicked toward him. "We passed the point of shouldn't 2 nights ago." "No," said Doran, the old knight, running a calloused hand along his sword's pommel. "She's right. There's something here, something that doesn't want us to leave." They made camp beneath a bent tree that wept black sap. The fire struggled to stay lit. Shadows moved wrong. When Marin, the scholar priestess, examined the tree's roots, she found markings, old symbols etched deep in a language older than recorded scripture. "It's a ward," she whispered, or was, meant to keep something in, or out. That night, Syl, the youngest of the group, woke screaming. He pointed into the trees, eyes wide, sweat pouring from his brow. There was a woman, skin like rot. Her mouth was full of black worms. "She kissed me." They laughed it off until they found the footprint in the frost. Bare, clawed, and wrong. By the next morning, Kaelin was gone. No tracks, no blood. Just his sword lying beside his bedroll, humming faintly. Fenby. They found him at dusk, swaying from a tree by his wrists. alive, but not whole. Venby. His chest had been carved open, bones folded outward like flower petals. Carved into his flesh was a spiral, identical to the ones Elira had seen in the old witch's book. The one that spoke of Pax. Kaelin's eyes opened. His voice was not his own. "She is awake now. You called her with your fear." Then he laughed until blood bubbled from his lungs, and he fell limp. They buried him beneath the black pine. That night, Doran stood watch with his blade across his knees. Meirin prayed. Elira sharpened her daggers. No one spoke. Except Syl, who muttered in his sleep, "The forest wants, it watches, it craves." Chapter 3. The Bloodwood Tree. They came upon it in the dead of morning, a tree so wide that its roots stretched like ribs across the clearing, and its bark pulsed faintly, red as wet meat. The Bloodwood. Elira touched it, despite Doran's protest. She gasped. Ooh, she saw visions. Her sister, long dead, smiling from a bed of black leaves. The woman she once loved, reaching for her hand. Her own body wrapped in silk, kissed by unseen mouths. She didn't want to let go. Doran had to pull her free. Her eyes were black for a moment afterward. Her mouth still wet, with someone else's kiss. Nexelt. The tree whispered to them all. Nexelt. Syl was next. He didn't even hesitate. Laid both hands to the trunk and wept openly as it showed him his mother, alive and well, beckoning him home. Meirin tried to stop him, but he turned on her, eyes crazed. "She's real! I saw her!" Then he sank to his knees, arms around the roots. "Please don't take her again." The tree pulsed. A low heartbeat. Meirin tore him away with Elira's help. His skin blistered. His teeth blackened. But he was alive. The Bloodwood remembered, free. They left without camping that night. But Elira still dreamed of the lips on her neck. Chapter 4. The Witch and the Beast. On the 7th night, they met the witch. She emerged from a curtain of fog, barefoot and smiling. Hair like spider silk, body wrapped in bandages that shimmered like silver. Her eyes were different colors, one gold, one all black. "I felt you pass," she said, voice like bells and rot. "Your pain sings loud." The beast followed close behind, an enormous lupine creature with 6 legs and 2 heads. It stared at Syl with eyes too human. It licked its fangs. Syl blushed. "I know what you seek," the witch said, "but you don't yet know the price." "We're not making deals," Doran said. "You already have." She gestured to Elira's neck. "The tree's mark. You belong to her now." Meirin asked her name. "I have no name," said the witch, "but you may call me the bride." She led them to her den, a sunken ruin covered in fungus and cobweb. Inside, she fed them wine made from bone marrow and petals. Elira and Meirin refused. Doran drank. Syl accepted seconds. Judd's. That night, Syl wandered out of camp. They found him in the river with the beast, naked. His chest marked in spirals. Judd's. "He's not hurting me," Syl said. "He's showing me what comes next." Elira dragged him back, screaming. Chapter 5. The Hollow Court. They found it beneath the earth. An elven court long fallen to madness. Tapestries hung from cracked pillars, each one depicting the same scene. A queen of shadows seated on a throne of antlers, holding the severed head of a man in her lap. Ghosts roamed the hall, translucent and still clothed in finery. Their eyes were empty. Their mouths smiled. Hunders. The queen waited in the throne room. She stood as they entered, her gown stitched from spiderweb and thorn. Her voice echoed like 1,000 whispers layered atop one another. "You return," she said. "All things come back to me." Meirin stepped forward. "We seek passage through your land." "Then dance for me." The music began. Invisible violins, drums made of bone. One by one, they were pulled into the rhythm. Elira danced with a prince whose fingers bled into hers. Meirin twirled beside a child with no eyes. Doran danced alone, weeping. Syl did not resist. He waltzed with the queen herself, smiling. The dance ended in screams. The ghosts vanished. The queen's throne was empty. Meryn collapsed. Her skin had turned translucent. Her veins pulsed with black ichor. She took something, she whispered. I don't know what, but she still danced in her sleep. Chapter 6. Flesh and Fog. The fog rolled in fast. Thick, red, alive. It screamed as it moved, and the ground grew wet with something not quite blood. They took shelter in a ruined monastery. The statues were defaced. Carvings covered every surface. Orgies of beasts and men. Women joined with shadows. Mouths filled with teeth. Syl stared at them too long. When Meryn touched his shoulder, he turned and kissed her. Hard. Desperate. She did not stop him. Weeminx. Later, she wept. It's the fog, she said. It's inside us. Doran locked the doors. Elira watched from the rafters, carving a new blade from bone. Then the walls bled. Hands emerged from cracks. The dead monks, still cloaked, whispering hymns in reverse. Syl let them touch him. Hirvaxis. They offered flesh, he took it. Mouths opened in his chest. Eyes blinked from his palms. Hirvaxis. I'm becoming, he whispered. Elira cut him down. One clean slash. His body screamed, even after death. Meryn screamed louder. The fog fled with dawn, but it left behind a trail of teeth. Chapter 7. The Bone Orchard. The wind shifted. The land beyond the monastery was barren. Cracked soil stretched endlessly until rows of pale trees appeared. Trees made not of wood but bone. Femurs for trunks, ribs for branches, skulls clustered like fruit. The bone orchard whispered. Elira led cautiously, her blade ever at the ready. Meryn followed without a word, her skin bruised with pulsing black veins. She didn't cast a shadow. Not anymore. Veaf. The orchard seemed to shift as they walked. The trees grew closer. The bones moaned. Veaf, then they saw the altar. Veaf! It stood in a clearing, piled with femurs and decorated with garlands of dried sinew. And atop it lay a man, alive, mouth sewn shut, his belly opened and cleaned like a feast bird. Something pulsed inside him, a worm made of tongues. He's still breathing, Elira whispered. Meryn stepped forward, dazed. He's dreaming. I can hear them. Who? The orchard. Hands reached from the ground, snapping through soil and bone. Faces split open in silent screams. Elira fought viciously, but they were overwhelmed. One hand grabbed Meryn's leg. Another yanked Elira's braid. She slashed and kicked, dragging Meryn free. Bitch! They ran until the trees thinned. Behind them, the man on the altar began to sing. Muffled, agonized, beautiful. Meryn collapsed in Elira's arms. She was cold, and her breath came slow. We won't survive this, she whispered. Elira brushed a hand along her cheek. Then let's make it count. They kissed, not for passion, for memory. That night, the orchard dreamed of them both. Chapter 8. The Devourer's Wake. They found a path carved into a cliffside, a staircase spiraling upward, slick with moss and age. At the top was a gate of bone and gold. Elira carried Meryn. Her strength waned, but her will burned like coals. Beyond the gate, silence reigned. Statues lined the path, warriors locked in agony, petrified mid-scream. Each bore signs of feasting, hollow eyes, gnawed fingers, missing hearts. The Devourer had passed through here. They pressed on into the mountain, gnawed free. It was there they found the Chamber of Maw, a cavern vast and circular, its walls ribbed like a throat. And at its center, the Devourer itself. It pulsed in the dark, A mass of limbs, tongues, wings, eyes, ever shifting. It spoke in thought, in memory. "You came to die," it said, using Syl's voice. "And yet, I offer you life." Merrin crawled forward, her veins burning like fire. "You've touched us already, haven't you? We're part of you." The devourer undulated. "You carry my seed, my breath, my hunger." It offered Myron a place, among the roots, the dreams, the flesh forest. She took a step forward. "Elira," she said softly, "I can't run anymore, but I can end it." Before Elira could answer, Merrin ran, leaping into the heart of the monster, daggers drawn. She plunged them deep into its core. Awantiri. The cavern shook. The beast shrieked. Elira was thrown back, blinded by gore and starlight. When she awoke, Merrin was gone. Only her shadow remained, etched in stone. Chapter 9. Ash and Memory. The mountain had broken. The devourer's death ruptured the earth. The Dreadwild burned with ghost flame, and trees fell like severed limbs. Elira wandered alone, wounds deep and soul hollow. Myron was gone. Syl dead. Doran lost in the hollow court. Myron's staff. She carried Myron's blade. Taff. The remnants of the old world stirred. Spirits no longer whispered. They screamed. The fog wept blood. The soil bloomed with eyes. Elira found herself at the edge of the Cradle Lake, once sacred. Now it boiled, filled with bones. There she found Doran. He stood on the shore, naked, eyes black, skin carved with spirals. "You lived," he rasped. "I survived." He looked at her, a stranger behind a familiar face. "I danced too long. I became one of them." "You can fight it." He shook his head. "No, but I can help you end it." He offered her the Stone of Calling, an artifact he pulled from his own chest. It pulsed with voices. "Elira, it's the only way to seal it. Bury the wound. But it'll take you too." She took the stone. Her hands burned. Doran kissed her brow. "I'll wait for you in the hollow." Then he walked into the lake, swallowed without a ripple. Chapter 10. The Spiral Gate. The path to the Spiral Gate was etched in her blood. Elira climbed the final ridge. Her body was a ruin, scarred, marked, hollowed. She carried the Stone of Calling, and with it, the memory of everyone she had lost. Above her, the sky split. The gate stood like an eye carved into the world, pulsing with ancient light. Roots and bones coiled around it. The Bloodwood tree loomed nearby, its limbs spread like a lover's embrace. Elira stood before it, breath ragged. "I've seen your dreams," she whispered. "Now see mine." She placed the stone at the base of the tree. It screamed. Roots writhed. The ground shook. From the gate came the devourer's remnants, a slithering, shrieking mass. But Elira stood her ground. She spoke the final words Merrin had taught her in the hollow court, a curse turned blessing. The gate sealed. The Bloodwood screamed once more and then fell silent. Elira collapsed as dawn broke. She awoke days later beneath a sky she didn't recognize. The Dreadwild was still. The trees dead. The blood dried. She walked away.